Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Peter Joseph, and you're listening to V Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of V Radio. I apologize. We're going to have a little bit of difficulties getting all my panelists on as my Skype froze right before the show. So I actually lost the information as to the other people who were going to be on. So give me just a moment to get all that started. But my first panelist, who's already on the call, is Thunder. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And on top of that, why don't you talk about your upcoming show?
Hi, V. How are you? This is Thunder, everybody, and glad to be on the show tonight. I just actually spoke with a new friend of mine, Heron Stone, who has this amazing ability to discuss language and linguistics, and I'm going to have him on my show tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Should be a very interesting show. He's quite an interesting character, nonetheless. If you're looking for who to add, oh, you've got Albert. Okay, very good.
Yep, we're good to go.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks for inviting me on the show, V.
No problem. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Albert.
Hello, my name's Albert Brown, and I'm here to share in the festivities of our conversation about sheeple.
Thanks. Yep. And that brings me, after I go through my typical words from our sponsor, so to speak, I'm going to talk about our topic tonight. Basically, I first of all want to thank those people who support V Radio, because within 2 days of me doing a show saying, oh, by the way, I've reset my fundraising chip-in, the thing was full within 24 hours. So thanks a lot, guys. That was pretty crazy. Somebody donated $80 and somebody else donated $20, and that made me hit my total very quickly. So I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
And in response to that, very soon here we're going to have, I'm lining up a lot of really good interviews. I have a show coming up Monday night with a gentleman who basically works in the electric car and sustainable energy industry at plugin.org. That show will be Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope you will tune in with us.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it does sound like a good show.
Yep. I sent him to the Venus Project website, and he said he likes what he sees. So it's one of the things I've been doing with these interviews is to try to get this idea to other people. Although I've been finding more and more lately that there's a lot of people with similar ideas. So it's actually good. I'm currently in the middle of reviewing something from one organization. I'm hoping actually to get one of them on for an interview pretty soon too. But in any case, tonight's topic is about sheeple, the concept of sheeple. And what I mean by that generally, actually somebody was nice enough to give us a definition. I think it was actually one of the callers tonight, actually. Linked it in the chat, so I'm going to read it to you here. Sheeple, i.e. sheep people, is a term of disparagement in which people are likened to sheep. The term is believed to be inspired by the 1945 George Orwell novel Animal Farm, where the sheep of the farm blindly followed and defended the farm's pig leadership. It is often used to denote persons who voluntarily acquiesce to a perceived authority or suggestion without sufficient research to understand fully the scope of the ramifications involved in that decision, and thus undermine their own human individuality, or in other cases give up certain rights. The implication of sheeple is that as a collective, people believe whatever they are told, especially if told so by a perceived authority figure believed to be trustworthy, without processing it or doing adequate research to be sure that it is an accurate representation of the real world around them. The term is generally used in a political and sometimes in a spiritual sense. So,
Wow.
Yeah, basically we're talking about that phenomenon of the kind of people who basically have no idea what it is that they're supporting when they say they're supporting it. And we're going to play some audio clips tonight. I'm going to go ahead and provide the link in the chat for those of you who are listening, because there are YouTube videos that we're going to be playing, and that are basically examples of sheeple. One of which is a video I remember from way back when V Radio was focused on the Ron Paul revolution. The video was called Why Ron Paul Did Not Win the Florida Primary, in this video, a guy basically is walking up and down the Florida beach, talking to the various voters after the Florida primary, asking them, like, so who did you vote for? And, there are various answers. In some cases, you'll actually be frightened by the stuff these people said. And what actually brought this to my attention was an article that I found on AOL News about Sarah Palin's book signing, and basically this one guy goes around to the line of people, literally a line of people, outside in the freezing cold, waiting for their opportunity to read, or not read, but to have, their book signed by Sarah Palin herself, and the various opinions that these people had about her, and more to the point, just how utterly clueless they were. I will read a lot of the stuff on YouTube, of course, in the comments always gets out of hand, but, let me see here. It's kind of ironic that it's in your argument, seeing as how you were obsessed with Palin. Let's see. What does her resume look like? Graduating with an easy degree after bouncing around 5 or 6 state schools, sports broadcaster, leaving a small Alaskan town, millions of dollars in debt as mayor, quitting as governor due to incompetence. Quite a record indeed. And that's just one example, of the kinds of things that were in this politician's background. And the reason
this is, of course, the same Sarah Palin that claimed she could see the Russian coastline from Alaska, right?
I guess so. But talking about her herself is only a mild focus of what we're talking about. We're actually going to get into the psychology of the people who follow her, and then we're going to go beyond just the issue of Sarah Palin, and get into just how a lot of things are like this. The topics are basically, that we basically, like every politician, there's a lot of people who support them who don't really understand what it is that they're talking about. So, but in any case, let me go ahead and if you guys are ready, we're going to play these clips.
Go for it.
I will probably pause them periodically. I'm going to warn you that these clips were put together by other people, so some of the stuff that's on them is not going to be as relevant as, say, some of the other stuff as far as to what we're talking about. But if there are any problems with the sound to you people who are listening, please let me know. Okay, here we go. I have to adjust sound settings before I can do that, so here we go. If you are having any problems hearing this, please let me know in the chat room.
Well, tell us why you're out here today.
I am out here today because I want to meet Sarah Palin.
We're out here to have a chance to meet Sarah Palin.
She makes me proud to be a woman, and she's strong. I think she's refreshing, a breath of fresh air.
She's like a rock star in the conservative movement. She
stands for what America is.
And what do you mean by that? If you could clarify further.
Freedom, our liberty, the right to speak.
She is the epitome of conservativeness. And I'm telling you, if the Republican Party doesn't back her, it doesn't matter because she's going to get the presidency.
And do you hope she runs for president?
I'd love it. I would like to see her be our first female president.
What are some particular issues of Sarah's that you would like to see her bring to office?
Oh, gee.
Help me out here, guys. Fairness. Realness.
But any policies, I guess, specifically that you of hers?
I can't think of the policies right off the bat. She's someone who can make a difference.
Yeah. What difference would you like to see her make?
I don't know.
There we go. No, I paused it.
If you could see me, I have both my palms in my face.
Okay, I just want to capsulate on one thing, and that's that, any particular policy that you like of hers? Oh, I can't think of any off the bat. The actual reason to support a politician might be their policies. So I just wanted to capsulate on that so people really think about what it is they're hearing, because this is kind of a mishmash of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and...
It brings to mind the concept of groupthink, where members of the group avoid
promoting any kind of viewpoints they don't understand, and for the comfort and the consensus of being within a group, and for the idea of social cohesion, they simply emulate a personality. You know, it's this cult of personality. It's like, I'm for him. Well, what does he stand for? It doesn't matter because he's so great. I'm for him. You know, it's circular thinking. There's no depth to it.
Well, I certainly don't disagree with you there. I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit more.
Guess I never really thought about it.
What are her proposals for health care?
I'm not really sure.
Well, what are some issues at first that you agree with?
I'm not sure where you're going with that. What issues?
How about foreign policy? What would you like to see her do in terms of foreign policy?
To be honest with you, I don't know anything about her foreign policy. I don't know. I really don't have an answer. I don't know her well enough, her thinking. I don't know what she knows and what she doesn't know. I wouldn't know half the stuff that probably some people ask me.
What do you think she would bring in terms of policy to office?
Good judgment again.
Any specifics?
I think that she would get control of some of the out-of-control spending.
Clean up the spending. Stop the spending.
She's for decreased taxes, cutting taxes, making a more, entrepreneurial, like conducive environment for our country. You know, getting back to less government dependence on things, back to individuals, and just a healthy country.
What's some of the spending you'd like to see cut?
All of it. Definitely more cost efficiencies and limit spending and cap and trade and all that.
What are some of the problems that you have with the cap and trade as proposed by Democrats in Congress?
I don't know too much about it, but
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about it. I'm against something I don't know too much about. Mm-hmm.
But it must be bad. Whatever it is, it must be bad.
Because she's against it.
Right. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. And the fact, like there was a lot of bad stuff that was just in that listing so far, but it gives you an example of how these people think. Like I honestly couldn't tell you anything, and I don't. This guy is standing there in winter clothes because he's freezing, okay, outside of a bookstore to meet this woman, and he wants her to be president, and he has no idea what anything really about her. So, anyway, there's more to come, so I'm going to keep playing.
a lot of it's just the whole, like, too much spending for, it sounds great on paper, but really it means people are going to suffer in the end, so.
If you want to give away your own money, that's fine, but don't tell me to give away my money. That's socialism.
Barack Obama, he wrote 2 books describing in detail exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. And what do the books describe?
Oh, well, his Marxism, Leninism, socialism.
I think that she would acknowledge the system of government in the United States rather than focus of administration of czars.
Yeah. And what are some of your problems with czars?
We don't have czars.
I don't think he likes the military. I think he can pretend that he does. I don't think he likes the military at all.
The way I think the country's going, I'm wondering whether or not we're going to have a presidential election in 2012.
Yeah.
I know there's some backroom talk of martial law. I'll give you one scenario that would absolutely do it, is if an atom bomb goes off in the United States.
We're no longer an exceptional country. We're no longer the shining light, the beacon to the world of what a society should look to be as far as freedom. We're just another country. And you think Sarah will win if she throws her hat into the ring?
Well, he's naturalizing a lot of the illegal aliens. He's in the process of doing it. They're saying she's not going to have the vote when you throw those numbers in.
There won't be enough white votes on one side to get a candidate through.
No way.
I don't think he's even an American citizen.
We do need to have profiling. I mean, the politically correctness has got to get out now. I mean, we're Americans, and he sticks up for the American people, not for other people. We're first, other people last.
When you're right, you don't have to compromise. Compromise is for people that are wrong. The state.
I had to stop at that one because I know Paradigm really loved that one, and I just wanted to, because unfortunately I couldn't get a hold of Paradigm to be on this show. I had to take a moment to pause at the notion. When you're right, you don't have to compromise. Compromise is for people who are wrong. Did you guys have any comment on that before I go any further?
Go ahead. My jaw is just like hanging here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the absurdity of these statements are self-evident. I mean, any thinking person who hears statements like these, I mean, what can be said? They speak for themselves. The level of ignorance, the level of unquestioning faith, the level of almost religious belief within the cult of personality, and also the fear that underlies this kind of thinking. This, I mean, you hear a lot of racism in that kind of thinking. It is alarming, concerning, and of course, it is a herd mentality.
All right, well, that's that. I'm going to continue.
That she did govern was right across the street from Russia.
Right. You could cross the street and you'd be in another country.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that she's ever had to deal with Russia, but I'm sure she's had, boundary issues that she had to deal with.
Yeah.
Like we got boundary issues in Mexico right now.
Governor of Alaska is the only one that has a top security.
What's that mean?
It means that if anything happens to our borders on that side, she's the first one of the line of attack for there.
Drill, baby, drill, for one. I mean, that's one thing, absolutely. And some of
of course, a lot of people are saying that we don't have enough. There's not enough oil.
Well, look at it like this. Suppose that we do drill, and not just for oil but for gas, and for while we're talking about that, look, some of these special interest groups like PETA and that try to do endangered species with polar bears and other animals. Well, now we need to get the polar bears off the endangered list so that we can drill there.
We got all this energy, self-sufficient oil, gas right under our feet. Why aren't we exploring more for it and drilling here instead of sending all that money overseas? And then
the last guy is starting to go down the right track, but I actually want to talk about the person who's like in all these organizations like PETA that are doing all this stuff, like, putting the polar bears on the endangered list, and we got to get those polar bears off the endangered list so we can drill there.
Actually, that was George Bush who put the polar bear on the endangered list.
Right. No, that's actually very ironic when you consider that they're talking about, a neoconservative at this point anyway. They're talking about Sarah Palin, who's a Republican who was supposed to be the, with McCain, the let's continue the Bush administration kind of thing. But yeah, the point is, though, she's saying, she's like, well, yeah, we got to get these polar bears off the endangered list so we can drill there. And I don't know, I got from her statement that she didn't really care about the polar bears too much, and that she does care about drilling. And the other thing that was ironic is, I don't know if you guys watched any of the debates, but Sarah Palin actually made fun of drill, baby, drill. She thought that was silly, and to hear people outside of a place getting ready to talk to her talk about it, Anyway, I'll get back to the recording.
exporting or importing all that oil back to us.
The second policy I love is the abortion issue.
Partial birth abortion, a baby is within this much of being a baby, and they gouge it from.
We have laws against it now, right?
Yeah, but they're being thrown out, chiseled at day after day.
And those laws are being taken away.
Yes, they are.
But it seems like in recent years they're actually being strengthened.
He said he was against partial birth abortion, but he's done nothing to prove that.
How has he been supportive of partial birth abortion?
Well, on the spur of the moment, I can't tell you that. I just believe that I've heard that over and over again. And I know it's going on. These procedures.
He can't answer that. He doesn't know.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I just heard about it. So
he's heard about it over and over again. But you know what that is? That's the media. The media, the echo chamber, as my friend Mike Gravel would have said,
right.
Repeating it over and over again, and that's why you have these people who think that you know, I mean, you get the impression this guy's talking, he's just thinking that, you know, President Obama must be, you know, aborting babies, partial birth abortion every 5 minutes or something, you know, but that's not even, that's why the guy's asking him, can you tell me where he supported partial birth abortion? He's like, well, I can't really answer that. But
yeah, I wanted to,
go ahead.
On the previous clip that you played, something that stuck out was one of the ladies saying she supports her because she's all about our people and our people first and screw everybody else, basically, and it's all about us. And, gee, what a nice, selfish attitude to have. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, we run into that quite a bit. I was listening to Lou Dobbs' radio show because he actually went independent radio now. He does his own website and stuff, and there was a CIA guy on there who he was interviewing, and the guy said, you know, well, you know, we're going to continue to lose the war in Afghanistan as long as we have presidents and policies that say that, you know, people, you know, the lives of people outside the United States are just as important as the people in the United States. I just was like, wow.
Wow.
Like, you know, isn't that what got us in this mess in the first place? Is we think that our lives are more valuable than others, so we have the right to just go around killing people?
Yeah.
So, all right, anyway, like I said, some of this stuff is not as to the point as I was getting at, but we'll continue playing it. But it more has to do with the fact we're talking about the sheeple aspect, and those like these guys who have no idea why they support this person. They can't really answer the real questions, but you know damn good and well that these people would vote for Sarah Palin if she was on the ballot today. So Let me continue.
There's a happening.
Where have you been hearing that? A lot of people have said that to us. I'm just trying to get an idea of where people are hearing this.
Well, I belong to church groups, study groups, and, you know, I watch television all the time.
And what are you watching on television to find that?
Well, I watch Fox News a lot.
And what are some of those freedoms that... 24/7.
Oh, my God.
Okay. I watch Fox News a lot. That's kind of ironic because I couldn't remember what that guy was getting ready to say because it's been a while since I watched this. What did I just say? It's the media. So where did he learn that stuff? I watch Fox News a lot. You know, Rupert Murdoch.
Not just I watch Fox News, but I watch it a lot.
Right. Rupert Murdoch's little party and, you know, controlling reality. But anyway, I'm going to go back to the recording.
You think it's been taken away?
Well, I really think the fact that I am a Christian, I think that the government and the mainstream media has been playing a role in, gosh.
You think your freedom to be a Christian has been jeopardized?
I think. Well, not only speech, not only Christian, freedom for religion here, and what it's a slippery slope.
Do you hope that she runs for president in 2012?
Yes.
Can anybody think of anything that, I mean, I'm not an Obama fan, okay, but can anybody think of anything really that he's done significantly to limit freedom of speech or to limit their rights to be Christian?
No, there's been no attack on religious rights at all in our country. There's been no attack on, well, you could argue about the freedom of speech with his continued support of the Patriot Act, but
so that wasn't going to be any different if Sarah Palin was president.
No, it would have been worse.
Since it was the Republicans who pushed for that stuff. But yeah, you know, the fact that they actually think that that's going on, and mind you, some of that could be from the Christian rights, and as they said earlier, you know, she's a rock star in the conservative movement. You know, the Christian rights idea that if we don't let them hinder our rights, then therefore we are in some way stopping their rights. Like, we're preventing them from having their rights. Remember the stuff I told you guys earlier about the Constitution Party and their belief that it's their freedom of speech to tell us not to speak profanity, it's their freedom of speech to ban profanity and things of that nature. That's the only thing that comes to mind. And mind you, that's just an assumption on my part, but I'm just saying that's the only thing I can think of that has happened is that because of the fact that Barack Obama, for example, supports, he doesn't support outright gay marriage, he supports civil unions. Could be an example of them, you know, not them thinking that they don't have the freedom to be Christian because they don't have the freedom to make it illegal for somebody else to do something in their own bedroom. But
yeah, and don't you find it a little mildly ironic that you know they're putting on the table whether or not Obama is affected freedom of religion, and yet how many times has he been attacked for his suspected religion or whatever, you know?
Right, he might be Muslim. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. So, anyway, I'm going to get back to the recording.
I do.
You support her.
I sure would.
Do you think there might be any problem with supporting her, knowing that you're not familiar with her foreign policy issues?
No, I wouldn't. That wouldn't keep me from not voting for her.
A lot of people.
Okay, I'm not going to preach about this, but that's another classic example. The guy just flat out said, you don't think that you not understanding her foreign policy might not be, it might be a good reason you may not want to vote for her? And he said, no, that wouldn't affect it at all. Just for those of us who haven't really grasped what the concept of foreign policy is, that's things like, war. Anyway, so back to the video.
People that are less informed about politics, when it does come up in the public sector, they want to yell and scream.
This is not rocket science. I'm talking about going back to the basics of America. We need good people like her that aren't afraid to speak up for reality.
Yeah, she had her time as governor, but I think she's got something up her sleeve.
And I think you're going to see crowds like this wherever she goes.
That was the conclusion of the Sarah Palin video. Let's go ahead and take a moment to have some conversation before we get into the next video. So, Thunder, thoughts?
I just can't believe that these people think that she is just so upstanding and intelligent, and she doesn't even know that Africa is not a country, it's a continent. That's one that cracks me up all the time. Where do these people get this from? I mean, talk about, I'm sorry, but talk about sheeple, talk about followers and blind following of what they hear or what's been drilled into them with this, as we talk about being so dumbed down by the media and brainwashed. Talk about a group of brainwashed people. Wow.
In fact, what you hear is a regurgitation of talking points that they get actually from the media, and the media actually, specifically, the Fox News outlet, acts as a dissemination portal for these talking points, and you actually hear some of those talking points in some of the comments.
Yes, you do, and that's actually, I would take a moment to once again recommend, on the subject of Fox News, a very good documentary that you can watch for free. It's listed in my VTV's Must-See TV that you can find at v-radio.org. There's a link towards the bottom of the page towards a Zeitgeist Movement forum post called VTV's Must-See TV, and in that you're going to find outfoxed Rupert Murdoch's war on journalism. And when you say, sound bites, because both Orwell Rolls in His Grave, which is another very good documentary on that issue, and that's kind of point towards Orwell, they keep quoting Orwell's 1984 in Outfoxed, and how you have basically Rupert Murdoch gets to filter down from the top essentially the agenda for the news for the whole day. Today we're going to focus more on X. Today we're going to focus more on Y. We're going to give more attention to this issue. We're going to give more attention to this candidate. And they actually have real memos, that they show in this documentary from the leaders. So that's basically it. I mean, the leaders in Fox telling their people that this is the buzz we're doing today, and that's how you end up. Those are basically your shepherds, the shepherds of the sheep, so to speak.
Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, basically, you have a pyramidal structure where talking points that are spoken on the street in front of a bookstore rally for Sarah Palin are first formulated, in a high-rise New York, boardroom.
And what were you going to say, Thunder?
That's fine. That's
okay.
I'm just astounded at this stuff. It's just mind-boggling. I
yeah.
mean, this is why, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I'm ashamed to be an American based on things like this and the, just the ignorance that proliferates this country and again, the fact that we're so dumbed down and brainwashed by this garbage.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, and it's something that is. I mean, we're going to get to why I'm bringing all of this up in a little bit, and I have a feeling this show may end up going into the second hour. So once again, to those of you who are listening live now, if we do end up going into the second hour, the rest of it will be available on archive, although it will not be broadcasted live. I wasn't sure how much conversation I would get out of this. But basically is that what we're talking about here, it's not really necessarily about just being derogatory. I mean, we no need to attack these people specifically. They're victims of the system and just as much as everybody else.
That's an important point. That's a very important point.
Right, but we do need to get down on that behavior, look for it in ourselves, and get rid of it. And it's one of those things that when we talk about, because you get a lot of assumptions from people who are so scared of our ideas in the Venus Project because we might have one or two things in common as far as goals that the communists or the socialists claim that they have, or we may have one or two things in common with the New World Order just because we happen to use the word global at any point, or considered that maybe the Earth should work together to do anything. It doesn't change the fact that our concept of education, this phenomenon, would never exist in a Venus Project society, because we would be teaching people critical and analytical thinking skills. You wouldn't get anybody making a comment like, I'm going to put somebody in charge of the ability of my country to go to war, which, mind you, the president isn't supposed to have anyway, but they do. And I don't know anything about their foreign policy, the person in question. I don't know anything about Sarah Palin's foreign policy, but I'm going to vote for her anyway, even though I'd be giving her executive authority to go to war whenever she wanted. And then, like, yeah, there was a guy in there who was like, yeah, I know that, she lived on the border of Russia, and, so she might have had some boundary issues. There's a whole fricking ocean in between us and Russia. The boundary issues. Come on. You tend to wonder, can this guy even find Alaska on the map? And that's relevant because this person was obviously not educated. I don't want to blame the person, but I am very disgusted by the system.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point to make sure that we drive home that, we're not doing the show, and we don't do shows like this per se to attack the person, but to take a look at the behavior and investigate the behavior, because if we're going to change the behavior for something better, we've got to investigate it. We've got to look at it. We've got to critique it, and we've got to, for lack of a better term, attack it and remove it. Otherwise, we're never going to move into a better social environment.
Yeah, I agree. Social cohesion is very important in any society, and the fact that people are leaning on such primitive tactics as groupthink and sheeple mentality to find comfort in social cohesion is really a failure of our educational system. It's a failure of our ability to think for ourselves and to use critical analysis. And it really is a shame that as Americans that this is an all too common phenomenon. It's not like this is something you can't find on any American street in any American city.
All right. That being said, we're going to move on to the next video. It's called Why Ron Paul Did Not Win the Florida Primary. It can be found on YouTube. And this video was taken around the time of the Florida primary, and it's just a guy walking around with a camera talking to various people on the beach about who they voted for and why. So we're going to go ahead and start playing that now.
Hello there. Who are you going to vote for President of the United States? Hilton? Yeah.
There is no Hilton.
All right.
I'm not sure. I won't know till after.
All right. Hello there. Who are you going to vote for?
Hillary Clinton.
Okay, good. And why?
And what?
And why?
Right now, I think she's the best one for us.
And what's your favorite policy that she has?
I haven't watched too many of her debates. Only what I read in the paper and on TV.
Okay, who are you voting for?
Barack Obama.
Okay, and why?
I think he's the best candidate. I think I need change. If Clinton is elected or McCain will be too conservative, and Hillary, it will be 20 years, almost 20 years of the same two families in office for the last, 2 decades. So that'll be, I don't know, the nation's not built for that, I don't think.
All right.
Now, this guy, obviously, by looking at the video, he looks like he's smart, but he's already wanted to vote for Barack Obama. I think the fact that this person in question is an African American might have something to do with it, and I get that, which I don't feel should be relevant, but I'm afraid that it probably was. I think a lot of people, when they said change, there was almost a psychological effect during this particular campaign where they wanted to do something different. So it ended up coming down to, like, when we were down to the last 3 Democrats, we were dealing with an African American, a white woman, and a nice-looking white guy from the South, John Edwards. And he was totally ignored in all the debates, basically. They just totally, they wouldn't talk to him or anything. And mind you, the guy's got his own problems, but he was very focused on poverty and stuff, and that's not a very popular thing. So, in any case, now, in addition, though, we were talking about, the change thing that Obama made his mantra. Now, to any of you who remember back to when Bill Clinton was running for president, this is the really ironic thing. Okay, this guy doesn't want to vote for Hillary because he doesn't want to see another Clinton in the office, but Bill Clinton's big thing was change too, okay? He repeated that word over and over and over again. You had no idea what change he was talking about. I remember very distinctly because it's one of the first times I paid attention to the presidential elections, and it was a debate between Ross Perot, George Bush Sr., and Bill Clinton. And I watched as Ross Perot and George Bush Sr. debated economics, Ross obviously sounding like the most competent because, well, Ross is a millionaire genius kind of guy. And George Sr., to his credit, was actually doing pretty good. He had, he was prepared to debate. I don't agree with what he wanted to do. It doesn't change the fact that at least he knew what he was talking about. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton was just too busy playing the William Shatner role and getting a lot of attention and, being more attractive than the other two guys and being younger. And at one point, I remember during the debate, he said, I don't really want to comment too much on what these gentlemen are saying, but I know that my registration is going to be about change. My administration is going to be about change. And then everybody in the crowd cheers. And about 10 minutes later, he says it again, like the same thing. Exactly, gets the same response. Okay? So the whole thing behind Bill Clinton getting elected in the first place was the change mantra. And I guarantee you, if you ask the average voter who voted for Obama that as far as change, they may have no frickin' idea what it is that he wanted to change. For all they know, he could have wanted to change the system to National Socialism. No idea. And that's, but if you guys want to comment on that, go ahead.
Go ahead, Albert.
Yeah, in terms of Obama, I think it was clear right from the beginning that that was used very psychologically. That word, I'm a very psychological thinker, and that was very obvious early on that this word was just being beamed into the American collective mind, and people were yearning for that. This was a very calculated move on a very shrewd politician's part, and these people who voted for him, I wonder what kind of change they think they've gotten in the last 14 months. I think it's a shame that people are not thinking more for themselves, and that we keep investing all this energy into this political system that has never delivered for us, the people.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, change. Okay, what's the big change? I hate to, call out the elephant in the room, but we've had white presidents the whole time, and now we've got a black president. Maybe that's the only change.
Right. And actually, I think that's exactly what they were going for. It's also what the media was pushing for. And that's up until my friend Senator Gravel shot Hillary in the foot by pointing out that she was trying to say she was an anti-war candidate and had just voted in favor of the resolution that would have allowed George Bush to attack Iran whenever he wanted. She was the one they were pushing forward, and they were trying to push Rudy Giuliani. They crammed that guy down our throats so much, and he was coming out so lousy in the polls. And they actually kicked Ron Paul out of the debates and kept him in and told Ron Paul that the reason he wasn't allowed to be in the debates is that he wasn't coming in high enough in the polls, even though he had consistently polled higher than Rudy Giuliani every time.
Is that right? I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Very interesting.
And I actually remember very clearly watching a YouTube video. I've been looking for it forever ever since, but they actually have a guy who's in charge of Fox News who's going around and telling the cameraman at one of the conventions, okay, I need you to pay more attention over here to these Giuliani people, and focus over here, and keep these Ron Paul people, off the air. We don't want those. We don't want those signs being shown on the internet. That they're not in the internet, but on the air. there was this huge crowd of very enthusiastic Ron Paul voters, and there was, your typical okay crowd of Giuliani people and things like that. But they intentionally went out of their way to make it look like that. And there was another example, actually, like when they showed photos from one of the conventions, they showed, even though at that same convention there was this huge crowd of Ron Paul supporters, they only showed a picture of one guy with a Ron Paul sign when they were showing what happened in that convention. And then they had all these other crowds of people. Go ahead.
No doubt there was a huge effort within the media and within the both party structures to minimize Ron Paul's effect in this election, and because he did have a tremendous amount of support, and that was very worrisome because he represented a new type of conservative that really has not been seen in the last 3 elections, national elections, and I think they were very, very worried. He was probably one of the most worrisome figures in the entire election cycle, and they definitely identified him, attacked him relentlessly, and they were very effective at it. I mean, the media, the who holds the camera, so to speak, in this day and age, controls the dialogue, and he got very little attention.
And they did the same thing to Senator Mike Gravel, and then after they got rid of him, Kucinich was next because he wouldn't stop talking about impeaching George Bush. He was very loud about that. And I remember specifically because Dennis, is always in tune with things. He's the only one still in office as far as like that side of things. They actually had 2 Democrats and 1 Republican, basically, who were anti-establishment. And I remember at that time in question I was talking about when Mike Gravel is exposing Hillary, Dennis starts smiling before Mike even finishes the sentence because he knows what Mike is getting ready to say, and starts drinking from his water because he's getting ready to watch Hillary get bombed on national television for being a liar about being an anti-war candidate. But you can actually find that video on YouTube. It's Mike Gravel exposes Hillary or something to that effect, and it's really funny. But anyway, I'm going to go back to the video.
What's your favorite policy that Barack Obama has?
Favorite policy? Well, not one particular policy, but just his whole what he's going on all together, like this whole bandwagon of change. That's all he wants, to change, and that there can be change in America.
Okay, what change do you like the most?
Particular, can't tell you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
I can't tell you.
This whole change bandwagon. Wait a minute. Let's go back. Bill Clinton. I don't know what those guys were talking about, but I'm all about change. Change.
Change has been used by politicians forever, that word. It's amazing that the populace falls for it time and time again. It's this conditioned mind that hopes, is always hoping that they're actually going to be delivered, delivered from their current state. And of course they're not. They're just going to be delivered into the next state.
Oh, and they're very clever about it. I mean, come on. They're not so dumb as to not know that people are unhappy with the way things are. They've been unhappy with the way things are for dozens of years, if not hundreds of years. And so anything that promotes change is good, right? That's change. We don't like the way it is. Let's change it. We don't know how we're going to change it, but let's just change it.
That's why I said it was like they have no frickin' idea what they're changing to. Like I said, it could have been changing to fascism. Devon wants to be added to the call. I'm going to go ahead and pull him in here, and then we'll go on with our broadcast. But once again, thank you everybody for tuning in to V Radio. Please visit vradio.org. That's v-radio.org with a hyphen between the word V, or the word V, the letter V, and the word radio. I'm going to go ahead.
And speaking of callers, are you taking any callers today, V?
If we have time. Like I said, I didn't know that this was going to spur as much conversation, and it didn't occur to me how long it was going to take to play this whole thing. But we go ahead and pull Devon on. Hey, Devon, you're on the air.
Hey, thanks for that. 1 second, let's get my volume here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to something.
Pause us. There you go. Go ahead.
All right, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to add, like, you guys were talking about how they were saying, like, you know, they're always using words like change and liberty all the time, and it's a little irritating. It's like, you know, they're not actually explanations. Like, you know, when you ask somebody why they're voting for a specific person, you expect to talk about a specific, you know, but instead all you're hearing is them talking about change and liberty, and, you know, define liberty, define change. What are you talking about? You can't just use these labels and use that as an explanation. It means nothing. You got to talk about the issue. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for adding to the show, and go ahead and you can go ahead and turn us back up, and I'll disconnect you. But thanks for coming on, Devon.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the recording.
Hi, man. Yeah. Who do you plan on voting for, sir?
McCain.
John McCain, okay. Thank you. And why?
I think he can run the country.
And what is your favorite policy that he has?
Protecting the country.
Okay, good. And besides that?
Economy.
Okay. And
the economy.
Good. What's your favorite economic policy that he has?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm going with Obama too. I'm looking forward to the changes. Pretty much just like the Iraq changes. I think we need a lot of stuff to happen over there. Pretty much like you said. So.
All right, good. And besides the Iraq change, what other policy do you like that Obama has?
I really haven't paid attention to it a lot yet, but out of all the people I haven't, he's the one I like.
Okay. Hey, how's it going there?
It's going.
Who are you going to vote for?
I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but not Hillary Clinton. Skype.
Okay.
You know, Obama, she's black. That's cool.
All right.
But, yeah, I don't know.
How about you? Who are you going to vote for?
Get her shirt, dude. Get the shirt. That's awesome.
Probably, I don't like Hillary even though she has a good health care plan, but I don't know, I just like Barack. It'll be a change of pace in the White House, I think.
What's your favorite thing about Barack Obama? What's your favorite policy that you like?
I don't know. I don't know. I just remember Hillary's health care plan being really, really good, but everything else that stuff.
Yeah, what's your favorite thing about her health care plan?
I don't know. I have to look at it again.
Okay. Where did you look at it the first time?
When she presented it, I was at my grandparents' house.
She went to your grandparents' house?
No, she didn't. No, we were watching the debate at my grandparents' house.
All right, cool.
Thanks for getting out, right?
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Hey, you're both beautiful, and thank you.
Who do you...
Yeah, it seems like it's turning into a personality contest because I like him. She's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's the level of unquestioning, just no depth. There's just no depth there.
There's definitely no depth, and I mean, you heard it. Like the girl was like, "I'm going to vote for Barack because he's black, and that's cool." You know, you're picking the executive, you know, of our country. Once again, you know, consider for a moment what that's all about. You know, and you're voting for him because he's black, and you think that's cool. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have I wouldn't like it anymore if they were saying I'm not going to vote for him because he's black. That would be lame. You know, I wouldn't say, you know, maybe people should be voting for Edwards because he was white. But it doesn't change the fact that this is the kind of value system that we're talking about. This is the lack of enlightenment that we're talking about. And that's another one of the reasons why I've said earlier that I don't think, you know, that we're ready to move on with some of the stuff that we want to do. And it's because of the fact we've really got to overcome this. We've got to get rid of these value systems that make us think in these terms, that somebody should be in charge because it's cool. You know?
Yeah, there's a famous picture that's often associated with the word sheeple. I forgot the artist's name. He does a lot of kind of truth media stuff, but it shows a sheep sitting in front of a television, and it's on Fox News, and the sheep is just placidly looking starry-eyed at the screen. And I think that's an apt visual for what we're seeing here in terms of how it's actually playing out in our populace.
Yeah, and as much as, you know, the sheep are led to the shearer through the tunnels and the, you know, be interested to see if someone's come up with a cartoon to depict a sheep being led into a voting booth.
You know, I often say that, you know, I kind of came up with this thought myself, is that, you know, one thing about sheep and people that they have in common is that they get herded, they get fleeced, and then they get slaughtered. And
right.
You know, I know that's a strong statement, but that unthinking quality in the human mind definitely leads you to be led by people who don't have your best interests at heart and have their own best interests at heart. And wars can ensue, people can die, bailouts for banks can happen, and groupthink obviously is rampant.
I agree.
Exactly.
I
Not only
agree.
can happen, but is happening right now.
All right, well, that said, I'm going to go ahead and play more of the recording.
Who you guys plan on voting for?
I know Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Probably
because she's white?
No, it's because she's a ruthless son of a bitch and I hate her.
How's it going, guys? Who you guys voting for?
Hillary.
Hillary, and you?
So undecided right now.
Undecided. Cool. All right, why are you voting for Hillary?
Because I like the Clintons. That's pretty much it, man.
Because you like Bill?
Bill Clinton did a great job, man.
Nice. And
Really fast, though.
good. What is Hillary Clinton's, of all of her policies, which is your favorite?
Me, I guess I think the best is to get the economy going, man. That's pretty much it.
Cool. And how's she going to do that?
I don't know, I just figured from Clinton, maybe.
All right, good. How about you, man?
Really not a big fan of Hillary. Don't really like her too much.
Who do you like, dude?
Anybody on the Republican side?
I'm kind of disappointed with all the selections this year. I mean, I don't think there's really that many good people running this year as there was like a couple of years ago. Right?
So who'd you like a couple years ago?
Like for one, Bill Clinton was pretty good. I like Bush.
Bush. Out of all of Bush's policies, which is your favorite policies that Bush Senior has?
Oh man.
Absolutely none.
I'm not sure about that one.
Going to the
all right, cool. Thanks, bro. How's it going, man?
He likes Bush. He can't tell you why.
Yeah,
He likes Bush.
I actually find it disturbing that, I mean, I understand this interview and this thing going on is in a very light atmosphere, but these people are almost laughing like it's just so inconsequential that, oh yeah, Bush, and it's just disturbing to me.
Yeah, it disturbs me too that people want these strong authoritarian leaders. They want people to literally lead them. You know, they want to give up their thinking ability so that someone else can do it for them.
Yep. I agree.
Couldn't agree more.
So, let's go ahead and try to get through the rest of this.
Yeah, we're not hearing it, V.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
None.
I'm not sure about that one.
All right, cool, man. Thanks, bro. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going. How you doing?
Good, good. Who do you plan to vote for in the general election?
Barack Obama.
Barack, okay. And out of all of his policies, which is your favorite?
I would have to say just his welfare policies. I like his social welfare policies.
Okay. So would it be okay with you to have your taxes raised like 20% to pay for that? Pretty cool. All right. And who is she running against?
Hillary at the moment.
Okay, good. And what don't you like about her?
Bitch. She's no motion.
All right. What candidate do you guys like the most right now?
Not Hillary Clinton. Probably Obama.
Obama. Okay. Yeah. And what is you too?
Yeah.
What is your favorite policy that Barack Obama has?
That's policy.
Hello. Who are you going to vote for the presidency?
Hillary.
Okay. And why? All right.
I don't know.
And what is your favorite policy that Hillary Clinton has?
You realize you're asking the worst person.
Hello there. Who do you plan to vote for?
Either Hillary or Barack.
And how about you?
Not Hillary.
Don't vote for one.
So out of what Barack Obama, of all his policies, which one is your favorite?
The war on terrorism. I like the policy on that.
And what is his policy on the war on terror?
I'm not against terrible my parents said it was good.
And how about you?
I don't know. Barack's kind of cute. Barack party. Definitely want Barack. Did you see him break it down? You know, he was breaking it down. Yeah? That's why you want to vote.
Hello there. Who are you voting for come up the general election?
Democrat.
Okay, and who's that?
Whoever comes up.
And who's in the running now?
Hillary and Osama bin Laden.
All right, good. And which?
1, 2, 3.
All right, good job, guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Today, who would you vote for? If the election were today, who would you vote for?
Probably, I think Obama.
Obama, okay. And what out of his policies, which ones do you like the most?
Well, I just like him because he's a Democrat, and I don't really care for Hillary Clinton, so that's fine.
Okay, good, good. And what about Hillary's policies do you not like?
Well, I don't know about the policies. We're really...
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan, but a lot of the negativity you saw about Hillary Clinton in there was just like, she's a bitch, she's this, she's that. And then they just ask them what the policies they don't like. These people don't even know what they're talking about. And they don't think it's important either. You know?
And they're laughing as if, partying and getting down, breaking it down, like these are reasons to base decisions on. Again, it just shows a lot of group thinking going on.
Right.
Yep. We're almost done with this video, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish playing it, and then we'll start the conversation.
Okay.
You know who's running right now?
Who's that? Well, Hillary and Albino, and then Wade.
Hi. Who are you voting for President of the United States?
Hillary Clinton, definitely.
Okay, good. And why?
She is very eloquent spoken, and she is, emotional, the way she talks, it's amazing. It's great.
And what do you know about Obama?
Obama? Not a whole lot either.
All right, cool.
And they're drinking their margaritas and walking along. It sounds like they're walking along the beach partying, and geez, amazing.
That's basically it. And I just think that that's kind of the mentality that we're talking about, that we're trying to get through to people about, that we need to change. And I don't say word change in that ridiculous sense we were talking about earlier, but that you have to be able to get people out of that sheeple mentality. It's like, I've talked about this in prior shows, so I won't go on my normal rant about it, but you ever noticed how, for example, talking about politics is something you get in trouble for, and being upset about politics is something that people look at you like there's something wrong with you for? I remember using this, I'll really quickly, for my new listeners, I'll retell the story of, my friend, for example, who played. We're actually, just so you guys know, we're down to the last 90 seconds, so when the live show cuts out, you'll still be able to catch us on archive. Remember to visit bradio.org, and I know I'm going to continue with what I was saying. Basically, where they have these people, I went into their channel at one point, and a topic came up, and this is on a Ventrilo server, and I said some things about politics, and then I left, and my friend, who was my roommate, was like, by the way, if you ever go back to that Ventrilo server, please don't, ever bring up politics again, because they were kind of put off by you bringing that up, and being so passionate about it. It was like, okay, whatever, and I just never went back there. And then, come to think of it, a couple of days after that, we had, I was listening in, and those same people who were freaking out, about that, about me talking about politics, these are grown adults, are yelling and screaming at each other because their raid in World of Warcraft didn't go well, okay? They didn't get their digitized gear, you know. They didn't get their non-existent gear, you know. And so you have adults who are basically telling each other that, cussing at each other and all that over the internet because they didn't get their gear in a fictional video game. That was appropriate to those people. Talking like that was appropriate. Okay. But
well, we live in a fake reality. You know, this construct, this consensus-based reality we live in is fake. It isn't real. You know, what is real is nature. What is real is what's outside this reality that we live in. This idea of fractional reserve trillions on some bank screen somewhere. You know, some 17 zeros behind some number. I mean, we're living in a fake reality. The propaganda that's catapulted at us every day through the news media. This virtual reality that people live in, or in these online groups. I mean, people are not living in reality, and that's why the likelihood of such a severe and catastrophic dislocation is now possible, because people are so disconnected from what really is happening in life, because they're living this other life inside their minds, and that is not based in what's really happening.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and not to veer down the road of conspiracy, but I'm pretty confident that it's contrived and very purposefully. The people at the top have figured this out. They know what food to feed the sheep, so to speak.
That's very true, and it is kind of a, honestly, you want to talk about clear and present danger, even aside from any conspiracy theories, the notion that the media is a tool to create sheeple, is that it's a very real thing, and you can see it. It's like even at the youngest ages, like for example, I noticed that I got a video for my daughter of like Super Mario Brothers, and she watched it over and over and over and over and over, and I was like, what the heck? And I'm like, why would she want to do that? Now, mind you, there was no advertising in it, there was none of that, but it was still something that held her interest, and it occurred to me that, because there is no advertising, because I don't ever put advertising in front of my children if I can avoid it, but she was still so captivated by that. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, if we were watching this on cable, she would have been exposed to McDonald's ads, toy ads, all those various brainwashing, things that they do, and of course her brain's going to associate that with, the good feeling that she feels when she's watching these cartoons, and that's when I took control of my TV again. It's the reason why my TV is hooked up directly to my computer, and like my daughter actually knows who Jacques Fresco is and says the name all the time. And I was watching a video about, it was one of the Designing the Future videos, and she asked to watch it on TV rather than one of her cartoons. And so I'm putting Designing the Future on for my 4-year-old daughter, and she's sitting there going, wow, they're getting the fish and, all that other stuff, because like there are different parts where they were using the fisheries,
Right.
And that's an example of me kind of taking back my TV as a tool to help me educate people rather than brainwash them.
That's fantastic. That's very wise. Very, very wise. I have a similar situation with my 14-year-old daughter, where I showed her the Venus Project website and the videos on there, and she was just, literally enthralled. And when I explained to her that I'm involved and how I'm involved, and she says, "Oh, Daddy, I want to be involved too," and I'm like, okay, no problem. And then the last time I had her up here, I sat her down and we watched Addendum together, and it was, it was so ironic she's 14 years old. She watches Addendum for the very first time ever, and After the part about the money, she literally looked over at me with this look on her face and this sarcasm in her voice that she obviously got from her daddy, and said, "Geez, Daddy, what genius thought up that system?"
Mhm. Yeah, and it's funny because you've got a hold of her before, she was told, basically, that before she was told that this is how it is and that's how it should be.
Right.
So.
Now, my son, who is 10, I have a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old, and my 10-year-old is so politically aware. It's amazing, because we talk about this stuff all the time, and he makes jokes all the time about politicians and how people are mind controlled and how people can't think for themselves, and it's because he understands that the reality we're living in is fake. It's not real. It isn't based on fact. It isn't based on truth. It's not based on what's going on in nature and our relationship to that. So it's not something you can really touch or see or feel. It's just something that that's being programmed and being shot into your mind, so to speak, via the tubes and the entertainment and the media.
Yeah, I agree, and I've had discussions with my daughter too about certain shows that she watches, and she knows that I kind of roll my eyes and say, oh, and play along and talk with her about the characters, and she'll see me roll my eyes and she'll say, "But Daddy, it's not real." And to me, that's just like astounding that a 14-year-old can actually decipher that. Well, Daddy, it's not real, So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yep, and that's definitely, and the people, I guess, in the forum or the chat were actually enjoying the show a lot, and I wish I had known it would have been so successful. I would have scheduled another hour on the active, but they will still have the archive. And I think the real focus, though, is on the subject of the people that we're talking about here. And as much as it's funny, we also have to focus on the fact that this is something that likely we have all been a victim of at one stage in our lives before we were woken up. My mom did a pretty good job of keeping me thinking, but there was a time when I didn't care about politics at all. And it occurs to me that the elite really like it that way. They don't want you to be paying attention to politics.
Oh, absolutely.
And in Switzerland, voting is not voting is mandatory, as in it is against the law not to vote in Switzerland. And I'm not saying necessarily that's what we should be doing, but you can see the various changes in the way Switzerland is governed as a country. In Switzerland, if you don't like a policy, then you actually have the right to secede your own property out of the Swiss country, like your yard. Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And they have a referendum system, basically a direct democracy referendum system to make major changes in their government. That's many of you, from my old listeners, I don't know if any of them even still listen to the show anymore, might have remembered my stuff about the National Initiative for Democracy Senator Mike Gravel put together, which is basically a proposal that we should have ballot initiatives like you have on the state level, on the federal level, that we as a country should be able to make laws that as the people to be able to get together the signatures to put together a proposal just like you have on the state governments. And they don't always come out good. I mean, in some of the states, for example, they voted against gay marriage and stuff like that, but that was their right. They're the people, and the difference is that if the people eventually change their minds, they are then empowered to change it. When politicians make bad decisions, they're empowered generally to try to make sure that those decisions look as good as possible so that they can stay in office. So, but when we're talking about the sheeple phenomenon, we're talking about the subcultures of people who are uncomfortable when you talk about politics, who are instinctively believe that that's boring. They don't really want to get into the meat and potatoes of it. You also notice that the war and the way that wars are handled. This is another thing. You guys, for those of you who haven't watched the documentaries in that list, I really hope you will take the time, because Militainment, for example, is a very good documentary that talks about how we have changed the way we cover war. It was much easier to rally people against the Vietnam War because the pictures you could see of it were much more graphic. And nowadays, you remember that one guy got fired for publishing that photo of all of those flag-covered coffins. You know?
Right.
You know, and the funny thing is they said, well, yeah, we just don't want you to make the families upset and all that other crap. And then, like, one of the women who, it was one of her sons that was in one of those coffins, said, you guys are full of it. You know, I started crying out of joy at the loving care that they took of my son, you know, because, like, they show the pictures of them saluting the coffins and going through all of these, you know, rituals to try to honor them, you know, but they don't want to have that image on the screen because they don't want us to be thinking about the negatives, you know, that are going on in this war. The fact that people are dying.
And people don't think because you know, I mean, we have now, we don't even have war coverage anymore. We have embedded reporters, meaning that they're in bed with the you know, the military, and they literally are going along with the military. They're not objective. They're not over there doing independent stories. They're there at the behest of the military and are dependent upon them for all of their access. That isn't reporting. And you know, and in addition to that, you know, this concept of the sheeple. I mean, sheeple are prevented from thinking. You know, you feed them crappy fast food. You fill their minds with mass entertainments constantly. Keep the mind entertained. An entertained mind is not a thinking mind. It's an entertained mind. It's a mind on idle. It's a mind put on hold indefinitely. It's a mind that's been usurped and is being, you know, is being controlled basically by remote. So I know these are astounding things to say, and some people who listen to this may find them far-reaching. But if you investigate it, you'll see that it's not far from the truth.
I definitely agree, and we have to recognize that if we don't take responsibility, somebody else will. You know, you know, we can't just believe that if we're not involved in the process by which we as human beings govern ourselves, that those, because like when there was, for example, a minority of people who wanted to do the wrong thing with power, okay, then we were fine. You know, because those people were just a minority. The longer that we stayed in this country, the United States in particular, and became more and more complacent and more distracted by the things you're talking about, for example, which is not a new concept. That's how Rome kept the Roman citizens in order, too.
Bread and circuses.
Yeah, bread and circuses, okay? The more the people, you know, who wanted to change things became the minority, okay? That's something I said earlier in one of my my blogs about, or not blogs actually, this is on a forum post, about somebody who was defending our system. Well, if you don't like, you know, who's running for office, then you should run for office. Well, I did. What you learn is that in many cases, the average voter is not very educated at all. I mean, I literally had people who were still telling me that Iraq was involved with 9/11. I'm not kidding. Even when George Bush has since admitted publicly several times that Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. Okay, yeah, I know. And my opponent, Candace Miller, the Republican, she's actually changed a lot recently, and I'm beginning to hope that maybe it's because of the fact that I put a lot of pressure on her during our campaign. But if you even talked bad about her, people would get offended. And when I brought up stuff like the various violations of the Constitution that she voted for, these are not little things. These are, the FBI doesn't need a warrant to wiretap your house kind of things. They could just do it. You know, bad stuff, okay? They didn't care. They didn't even want to hear it, you know, because I was essentially talking about their hero, you know, and but basically that's the notion that I'm getting at is that we have to be willing to take responsibility for how our world is governed, and that's something that has to happen, you know, also within our own movement, you know, because I mean, as we've already seen, this is both good and bad, but we've seen that, you know, there are people within the movement who don't really get it, you know. We've already been over the issue with Eric R. and all that, but you get my point. You know, we had people in the movement who don't really understand it. You know, we have some people in the movement who have some very controversial ideas that they want to make mainstream within the movement when they're not necessarily compatible with what we're doing. It doesn't mean that they're not relevant issues. It does mean, however, that they're distractions and they're pulling us away from the core issue here. You know,
right.
And I'm sure we also have people in the movement who blindly follow and don't think for themselves. I'd say that our movement has less of a problem with that than some other movements I've seen in the past. You know, I've been over and over again about my problems with what happened in the Ron Paul movement and how it slowly, you know, just abruptly one day turned into a theocratic movement. You know, where suddenly we're listening to all that stuff I was mentioning earlier about, you know, the Christians believe it's a violation of their rights if they don't have the right to tell us how to live our lives. And it's not all Christians. I want to, you know, qualify that. It's like the Christian right extremist types, the ones who do crazy stuff like protest the funerals of fallen soldiers to say that, you know, that people are dying in Iraq because of our tolerance of homosexuals. Those kinds of crazy people, you know. And unfortunately, there are some that are far less extreme than that, or far more mainstream, who think that it is a violation of their rights for us to be allowed to live our lives the way we want, even if we're not saying a word to them about how they want to live. You know, and that's just a drastic divergence from libertarian ideals. And everybody followed along because Ron Paul said so. You know, so even within the movement of supposedly free thinkers, there were sheeple. You know.
Yeah, and we do need to be careful within our own movement, and there are probably people here who have jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak. But I agree with you. I think it's less of a problem in this movement, but it doesn't. It definitely takes eternal vigilance. I mean, something that we're always going to, because people who come into this movement are from the world, and we're all bringing in our own cultural baggage and garbage, and being in this movement and moving and working forward together is going to be a purifying event. We're going to have to burn off some of that garbage as we move forward into this new first world society that we want to create, this new first world civilization, and that's going to take a lot of work. And absolutely, I'm really glad we're talking about this, because the sheeple phenomenon is something that is a behavior that we just cannot tolerate. It has to be exposed in the light of day. Has to be seen for what it is, and we have to have some kind of social pressure brought to bear to discourage it from amongst our own ranks, but also everywhere we go, because that benefits us and the whole world. The more people we have thinking critically, the more people we have asking questions, inquiring, trying to understand, doing their own research and analysis, the better off we're all going to be. We're all going to be smarter and stronger and more informed for having had that kind of environment and created that kind of environment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know during most of the part of the show we've made some references of levity, and this is really a serious issue. Not that talking about it is going to change it, but again, like I said before, we can't just sweep it under the carpet and think it's going to go away. We've got to remain assertive and keep on the path of activism if we expect anything to change.
Absolutely, and with that said, I've actually got some other things we're going to need to do, so we're going to bring this conversation to a close. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I want to thank both of you for coming on to be panelists today. I hope that you enjoyed being part of the show, and you guys definitely helped to make B Radio what it is. And my next show, at this point, as far as I know anyway, will be 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. Thunder has his shows coming up. If you have a radio show that is Venus Project oriented or Zeitgeist Movement oriented and you would like to have it added to my links, please let me know. And other than that, thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing where this movement goes. Real quick before we go, I would like my panelists and myself to make a few sheep noises to commemorate our statement. Ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Maa, maa. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
No problem.
This is Roxanne Meadows.
And this is Jack Fresco.
And you're listening to V Radio.